Hello and welcome to Glitch Cube. We're a gaming podcast, and each week we take a deeper look into the art of video games. I'm Christian.
And I'm Chris.
And hey, hi, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another fun and exciting episode here. We want to talk about something that's near and dear to our hearts. Like, we grew up in this era, and if anyone else has grew up in, the 80s or the early 90s, and you enjoyed any form of anime, that means that you are probably just as big as a fanboy as we are of mechs. We love big giant robots. Who doesn't, right? And it comes to Gundam, when it comes to Power Rangers, all that, right? Like, there's so many different types of mechs out there that just really inspired our childhoods. And, I feel like that really drew me to a lot of specific types of games in the beginning too, right? Like, as soon as I saw like a big robot or any kind of robot really on the screen, I was instantly like, I have to check this game out, right? Like, I don't know. There's just something about it. Even if it was just a horrible, horrible mess of a game, you still wanted to try it out because you want to live that anime life, right? Like, you wanted to be those heroes. You wanted to link up at like Voltron and defeat like the crazy beast of the galaxy. And just, I don't know. There's something about it that just really spoke true. And, it's obviously inspired so many different video games out there. And the mech genre has come a long way. There is not just one type of mech game, which is fantastic. Mech games span every possible genre that you can think of, from 2D side-scrolling platformer to RTS to full live-action game. Like, just you name it, there's a game for it. And I think that's what I really love about the mech genre itself. Like, any type of game you're in the mood for, there's one out there for you. If you want something crazy absurd and just does just crazy anime explosions, guess what? Super Robot Wars is right there for you, right? If you want something a lot more tactical, like if you want to get into the nitty gritty of the cost of repairs and changing out your parts and making sure to keep everything going like a real engineer would, Mech Warrior is your best friend, right? Like, there's all kinds of stuff. And it's not just the gameplay too, it's the scenarios that these games are revolved around, from the different stories that take place. It can go from an epic space opera to, Cold War era, like, style of game where it's like steampunk robots now, where it's a different kind of universe. It's really just amazing, the range that mech games have. And we really wanted to pay homage to that genre and give them the breath of air that they need and celebrate them as much as they need to be. So this episode actually is probably going to be a little bit of an experiment for us, right? So this is going to be an extended episode. It's going to be spanning across 2 different episodes, or maybe even more, depending on how much we really talk about it, right? Because there's just so much to talk about. But the first one, we really wanted to just kind of bring up where the mech genre came from, like what really, what's the big granddaddy games, right? What's the ones that I think are most iconic to it and made the most impact? And then we can start diving into some of the other types of games you have out there as well. And maybe even hit some of the indie games that are sparking and coming out now, and just seeing where the genre might go in the future. So before we dive into the big games that we want to talk about today, what's your overall experience with mech games? Like, how much did you play them? How much were you drawn to them? All that fun stuff. And actually, before we get into the games too, I want to hear what your favorite mech is. Anime, game, whatever. Like, who's your favorite mech out there?
Death Scythe.
Oh, that's a great one. Oh, God, I love Death Scythe. The Endless Waltz Death Scythe.
Oh, yeah, the Endless Waltz. Anything in the Endless Waltz was fucking beautiful. Yeah, with the
cloak wings that closed up. I made that Gundam model, too. I was so obsessed with Gundam models when I was a kid. It was so cool because it actually, folded over and closed and, hooked closed, so it had, his cloak on. Oh, that thing was awesome.
But, yeah, I mean, my love for mechs came from, Gundam Wing on Toonami. That was my introduction to it. After Dragon Ball Z, I'd have Gundam Wing, and then I always loved when Toonami would bring in like other Gundam series in there. Like I remember 8th MS Team was on there, and that actually became my favorite Gundam like series or show, because I think it was only one season. And I've watched a few other seasons. I won't say I'm a huge Gundam fan to the point where like I've seen everything, because there's lot.
So many.
But from what I've seen, like I've seen maybe like 4 different shows of it, and I enjoyed what I've seen. But for me, I always wanted to play a game where you're in a mech. And this was like mid 90s, right? Like kind of late 90s. I would say maybe more late 90s. Because I was a kid, it's not like I had the internet. Not that it was really big, but I had magazines, and I would see pictures of like mech games. And in that era, I feel like there really weren't that many on consoles. Like, even though Mech Warrior and Armored Core were around during that time, I didn't really notice them. And I think the first mech game I really like saw and enjoyed was Front Mission 3. And I know we're going to talk about this game in another episode, but it made me more interested in finding games like that. And back then, in the US at least, we didn't really have many strategy mech games. It was all third-person or first-person shooters, which is understandable. That sells in America, at least
and
back
PC
then.
was king at that time, too, for mech games.
Yeah, PC, like that was the thing. And like back then, I had a PC as a kid, but it was like, oh my God, it
chugged.
it chugged. It wasn't like a gaming PC of the 90s, you know. It was just like a Dell, or no, I think it was an HP. Like just, it could play SimCity 2000.
Well, like none of us had,
you know?
I mean,
like,
my first mech game experience was in the basement of my uncle's house, and he had like 6 computers hooked up to one another, right? Like Jesus. He was a big Quake guy, but you know, like you needed that kind of setup, like that kind of rig in order to play these things. And no kid had that available to them, you know?
Yeah. But after that, I think when you look at the more typical mech game, I think Armored Core was kind of the one that really got me into it, just because it was fast paced and it was interesting. And, you know, after now reading about the history and the people that worked on it, I was like, wow, no wonder I liked it. You know, I mean, we'll get more into Armored Core soon, but it just made me feel like a badass. You know, that's what I wanted from being a mech. It's just to fly around and be crazy. You know, I felt like a mech warrior when I played it. It did feel more realistic, but it just felt a lot more slow paced. And as a kid, I was like, this is kind of boring, you know? But my dream one day, it would be cool to own the Steel Battalion freaking controller
that thing, yes.
thing that exists. But like, it'd be cool to have all those peripherals for a mech game, right? Like, just imagine Mech Warrior 5, like with all those like, handles and buttons, like,
that'd be amazing.
Sick.
That would be the way to play it.
Yeah, it sounds like selling a house, you know, but just to own it. But it'd be
if
cool,
money
man.
wasn't an option, that would be an amazing investment. You know what? With all your crypto stuff, if that blows up, there's your next purchase.
That's the first. I'm gonna buy one of those little chairs that like hydraulic goes around. You know, like people get for like racing games. Just get it for the mechs. Oh yeah,
fantastic. All right, so who's your favorite anime mech? Like, which one besides Deathsight? Like, which one? Like, what was your standout? You know, like I know Deathsight's huge, but like when we talk like old school, right? Like, if you could be pilot, right?
Ooh. See, my knowledge, like, I've seen Macross, but I don't remember much of it. Same with Robotech. Like, I watched those when I was really young, and I feel like the only thing that really stuck around were Gundams for some weird reason. I really want to go back and watch both of those just because, you know, people always say they're amazing. But, yeah, my knowledge on favorite mechs are just mostly Gundams. I mean, I forget the name. It wasn't G Gundam though, but I forgot
Dude,
the
big shout
name
out
of
to
it. I
G
would have to
Gundam.
look
That
up.
is the most underrated Gundam series, in my opinion.
I figured you would like that. It's such like a My Hero
Oh,
Academia
it's
kind
so
of
good. It was
freaking
the only
Gundam.
one that like the controls made sense, right? Like when you see the fighting in actual Gundam animes, they're just pressing buttons and moving levers and stuff, but they're actually doing like really fast-paced karate. It's like, okay, like that doesn't logically make sense to me, but I'll accept it. Anime rules, right? But G Gundam, it had like the Pacific Rim style, like tactile suit that you're in. And that's whenever like my brain was like, oh, this makes sense, right? Like that's why they're able to move the way they do. And I just love the world competition that they set up there, where like each nation had its own mech, right? And it actually fit with the fighting style of that nation. Like the American had the boxer, where his shoulders like shot off and became boxing gloves, and that was dope as hell.
Oh, the Netherlands
The
Gundam that had the
windmill, which
freaking
was dope as
windmill.
hell, right? Like the Indian one with the crazy cobra stuff, right? Like there was a lot of really cool mechs, and like everyone was so specific. Or the one from France was amazing. It had like the rapier,
Oh, the
yeah, like super
Napoleon
cool,
thing.
like really great designs there. But I don't know, like my love of mechs came from anime, first and foremost. And the one that really just caught my eye when I was a kid was Voltron. Voltron was my go-to mech, right? Like I loved it. It was amazing. I even remember going to the Imperial Beach flea market out here in the drive-in theater. Like so,
Mm-hmm.
I remember one day we were going through that with my mom, and I saw a Voltron kit there. I was like, "Oh my god! Like I need to get this." So my mom, like, I was so lucky that she actually picked it up for me. And when I got it home, I didn't realize it was the actual like action figures, but it was the metal action figures. It was like the legit like cast iron
Ooh.
ones. And these things were insane, and they actually like fully transformed and linked up. It had like 50 different weapon attachments. I was in love with this thing. It was so cool. And like I think that's what really draws me to specific types of mech games, right? Like there's like Wolfstride that just came out, which we'll be talking about much later, but it has that same vibe of like big giant robot, right? That is coming out. Or like another anime that I absolutely loved was The Big O. I thought that was a great show.
Oh, I
That
forgot
one was
about that one.
great. And the great thing about that show was it was probably the best one at showing scale when it came to giant mech robots. Like it really made you feel how big and colossal these things were, because every time it like panned out and showed the two mechs just going at it, it showed the buildings just dwarfed in comparison to these giant robots. And they were always like in the foreground, just kind of lightly there, but it just set scale so nicely, which was really impressive. But unfortunately,
Oh, there's Big O action figures.
yeah, unfortunately, that show did not make it very long. I'm not really sure why. Yeah,
Two seasons.
I think it didn't even finish the second season, if I'm not mistaken, or it did, but it was very rushed. You know, like it could have had more, but because
I think it was trying to be too deep for what it was.
yeah, it felt like they were trying to make him Batman, right? And it just didn't
Yeah.
really fit at that time. Like, yes, we had the critically acclaimed that the Batman, right, with the most iconic like Mark Hamill Joker, right? Like, it just
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't really fit right, at that time, unfortunately. But it's a great show. But you know that really inspired a lot of the mech games that, like I said, that I played, and like I always gravitate towards the more anime style ones. But I remember the first mech game I played was actually Mech Warrior on the PC. I think it was like Mech Warrior 2. And it was at my uncle's house. Like we were playing a game of Quake, and then on a different computer, he had that one booted up for whenever like we got bored of playing Quake with him, he would just go play Mech Warrior after setting up another flight simulator. Like that was my uncle. So like I started playing around with it, and I was so blown away by feeling like I don't know what it was. It was just the idea of actually being in the cockpit. Like those games did that very, very well, where it made you feel like you were actually in the cockpit of the mech and seeing like on the screen the different body parts of how different things are getting injured and like the weight to things and like the cost. Like it's very good. Like, I guess like a real life sim, right? When it came to actually controlling and using mechs in battle. So it's very clever. And it was a very fun experience as far as seeing a different side of mechs. Like, though my whole life I grew up with anime mechs, and then whenever I saw that in a game, I was like, ooh, there's more. And then, like you, I ended up playing Armored Core. Absolutely fell in love with that as well because it was a little bit faster paced, and I felt like I didn't have to manage that much as I did with the Mech Warrior. I was too young for that. And I don't know, it's been a fascination of my life going forward. Like, anytime there's a big mech in a game, I'm all for it. Like, even like White Knight Chronicles, right? Like, it's a RPG that it's a bad RPG, but there's kind of a mech in it, mech element, and I love that part. That was like my favorite part of the whole game, was being able to hop into that. Like, every action I did was to make sure I got that mech out faster, because that was the best part of the game. It was the hook. But yeah, so it's I don't know. I love seeing where it's gone, and actually doing the research on a lot of these games this week made me appreciate these games even more. Like, there's so much to them, so much like variety. And you can say that about any game genre, right? There's so much variety in anything. But like, I don't know. I feel like mechs are just special because they can be anything. Like, sure, we have so many first-person shooters and they all do different things, but in the end, they're all just first-person shooters, right? Like, if I want to play a tactics game, I can play a mech tactics game. If I want to play a first-person shooter, I can play a mech first-person shooter, right? Like, it feels like it transcends. And I think that's what like has really made me fall in love all over again with the mech genre, like, while doing the research for this stuff, because there's so much, and there's so many games I've added to my list now of what I have to check out. I think it's about time. I think we should really talk about the granddaddies, like really dive into them a little bit more. We touched on the names of the games that really set things off, but let's go back to the year 1989 when the first Mech Warrior actually came out. This game changed everything, right? Like, this game showed that mech games can be something, and it was incredibly popular at the time because it was I would say one of the first games that made you feel like you were piloting the mech, right? Like, there were some of the arcade games where I forgot what the game is called. It's like Battle Tanks or whatever, where you actually it's like first person view of the tank, right? And like you kind of scan the environment and you shoot down like the polygon enemies that are coming at you. It's very simple. I remember playing that game a lot, but like it reminded me of that, but on a higher level, right? So like, but now you actually see the borders in the artwork of like the frame for the glass, right, of the mech that you're sitting in. You see your controls laid out in front of you. You see like the actual silhouette of your mech with the different components that you've attached onto them. And like, it just, everything about it felt very immersive, especially for a game in 1989. Like, it's huge. And there was a very deep story to the mech game, right? Where it's like you're fighting this revolution and it's pretty huge. And you're trying to, recruit a bunch of pilots along the way so that you can populate your own little rebellion force, right? And it's because you need pilots in order to pilot these mechs. So you have to actually befriend these people and go on little side quests throughout the towns in order to do that. Like, side quest is a very general term when talking about the first Mech Warrior, because really it was like there's 6 options on the board, and either you're going to the bar, to the to different locations, and it's just like a one panel like splash screen and just text dialogue, like go to the bar, talk to the barkeep, and he'll tell you what to do, right? Like, that's the kind of like side quest exploration that we're talking about. It's not what we're used to now, but for then it was a lot, right? It really just changed things a lot. And what I love about this is that you can still see the bones of that first Mech Warrior game in even the newest versions of Mech Warrior. Like, Mech Warrior 5 still has all those main components. Like, it did not change the formula, it just did it better, right? And it just keeps expanding on it and changing things up and giving us new mechs, new abilities, new environments to go around and explore in. Still very text heavy and very dialogue heavy, but it just expanded on everything that we really want from the MechWarrior franchise, and it stayed true to what it was, right? Like, I'm sure they could have gone down different avenues and maybe, like followed trends and became even bigger games, right? Like successes, but those versions of those games wouldn't be held as highly as what MechWarrior is today, in my opinion, right? Like, they stuck true to their formula and they're successful for it. And it just shows like how much it has inspired the mech franchise, especially that style, right? Of like, I would say like the Western style of mech games. It has really, really inspired that style of game throughout the years since its inception in 1989. Like, it's still seen today, like through so many different games. Like even Armored Core, like we mentioned, holds a lot of the same similar ideas. Like there's a lot out there with like the resource management and all that. Like MechWarrior really, I guess, like set the pace, right? Like it's a huge title.
Yeah. I think so. It really like made it seem like it was a reality. I feel like it really did well to pull in people with different interests into it. Like a lot of people could see a lot of these mech games and be like, oh, this is just, some anime kind of thing. Like, this doesn't really interest me. But MechWarrior really did take it in a different way. It still has that military, obviously, like the militaristic look to it. But I don't know, it makes you, compared to all the other mech games I've played, at least like, especially with MechWarrior 5, it really does make you feel like you're playing it. And I feel like the only thing it's missing would be a VR.
That would
function.
be insane. Oh,
like I'm hoping with PSVR 2, like we'll get some kind of cool mech game with it. And oh man, like that would be sick. Like it's the perfect game for it,
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to have a VR mech game. VR MechWarrior, that'd be so cool. Like, what if you, like, how, like, while you're fighting, your different limbs can take damage, right? And be destroyed in battle? Like, let's say you have the controllers in your hands and your right arm gets blown off. And now, like, every time you touch it or, like, try and activate it, it just vibrates, right? Like, it's like a dead arm, like it's non-responsive or something like that. Like, that would be really cool. Or, like, feeling the shots in each remote separately to know what side of the body you're getting hit on. Like that, there's a lot of cool things you can do with that.
Well, I mean, I could see it being possible because they just had a showcase on the new PSVR, and they were talking about how the hands and I think even the headset will have haptic feedback, just kind of like the controllers.
Oh, cool.
Which, if that's the case, it will be more realistic. And they already have those like bodysuits or like vests you can put on that like react to vibrations in certain areas for like VR games.
Oh, yeah, that's true, huh?
So, I mean, you could have like a whole setup like that where you have like your like vibration suit with the controllers and all that. And it's like, it'd be immersive. Like VR stuff, it's interesting. I feel like it's the past few years have been too early for it. But I think starting this year and going forward, I think we're at a point where, these kind of games would just shine and actually feel realistic, instead of, Surgeon Simulator kind of games where you're just goofing around on it. Like now you can fly around in, a mech, or you can play like Microsoft Simulator or Flight Simulator and just fly planes. Like it's cool, like. Oh,
can you imagine like boosting in a mech, right? And feeling like the weight of moving forward on your chest? Like the actual like speeding up. Oh my God, that'd be so cool.
Vibration chair. Actually shakes.
That would be insane. I would love that. Sign me up first in line. I would be that like how it's amazing how immersive the MechWarrior games have been with the technology that it had. Even the 1989 version was so immersive, right? and just seeing where it could go in the future. Like, that would be the ideal situation for these MechWarrior games. That's like the level of immersion that they've been trying to emulate this whole time. That'd be fantastic. That just kind of like blew my mind with possibilities. That'd be so cool. While MechWarrior definitely inspired the more realistic and gritty approach to mech games, there's been kind of like a little bit of a hole there. Like, there's a lot of anime mech games, right? Like, that's kind of what a lot of us, I mean, that's what I was drawn to when I was younger, right? Is like, I wanted to relive the anime. So when I was looking for those games, there wasn't any that really like stood out for a while, right? Like, a lot of those games ended up being more of like fighting games, a little bit more simple, but they never felt like the shows themselves. Until, I would say, probably 2001, right? When Zone of Enders, a Kojima game, right? So you already know it's going to be a little different. But in 2001, Zone of Enders came out, and it really showed us that full space 360-degree fighting style that we've been kind of looking for. And while the game is not perfect, it definitely did... I don't know, like it gave us exactly what we wanted. It was a really, I would say, like the perfect proof of concept to show that this is actually possible, that we can have our anime mech battles and have them in our games, right? Like, it was just something that we could do. And, the story and all that stuff, like, it's, like I said, it's not a perfect game. Like, a lot of people mention the fact that, like, yes, while the 3D models and the fighting does look fantastic for the time, the environments that they're fighting in are very bland and boring and simple, right? Which, yes, they are, but they really wanted you to, like, focus in on the things that you're going to be looking at the most, which is the mech that you're piloting. They want you to be immersed in that world, right? And of course, the missions did become a little bit repetitive, but really they're testing the waters, right? They're trying to figure out how to make this thing work. And I would say that after the first one came out, it did show that this is possible, that we can definitely have our awesome epic anime mech battle fights. And then Zone of Enders 2 came out and just blew it out of the water, right? They perfected they really just advanced what the first one did. They did the 3D full space battles better than the first one, and then they also gave us improved, interesting environments, and then they even threw in more like sophisticated thinking enemies, right, to give the missions much more range. And the story was actually pretty interesting as far as like anime story tropes go. And like they really wanted to feed into that like inner anime fanboy for sure, because even the cutscenes, so like in the first game, the cutscenes were all the traditional 3D style cutscenes, right? Like what you would get in a normal PlayStation 2 game. And then after that, in the second one, they traded in all those 3D cutscenes and actually made them fully animated cutscenes. So they wanted you to feel like you are playing the anime through and through. Even the 3D models themselves, they went from a more traditional 3D like kind of style to actual cell shading, which is what I mean. I love cell shading, and I think it's timeless. It definitely makes the game still look good today when compared to the first one, right? The first one still looks good, but the cell shading definitely helps it age better, and it still feels like an anime, and it still has the same like action style that the first Zone of Enders showed as like that was possible. So yeah, like this one, I really feel that like despite the fact that we did have a lot of really good Gundam games, between 1989 and 2001, there was a lot of really good stuff being put out there. I feel like this game, Zone of Enders, was the first one to really show off the fact that we can live the anime, right? In my opinion. And maybe there's games out there that we're missing here that might have done it better or different or tried to test the waters first, but I feel like Kojima, being who he is, was able to push the boundaries and really make it happen and put it into the limelight for people to actually see, right? So I think like that's why this is the game that inspired and really helped push that style of mech game, because there's really two core styles of mech games out there: the gritty real one from Mech Warrior, and then now we have our space operas from Zone of Enders, right? And I don't know, it's amazing to see where it's come and like how this game has changed things after the fact, right? We have some amazing titles that have come out after Zone of Enders, and I feel like maybe they wouldn't have been a thing if Zone of Enders never came out, right? Like look at oh god, what is it called? Like Project Nimbus, right? Like, I feel like that definitely takes a lot of inspiration, or Daemon X Machina takes a lot of inspiration from the styles from Zone of Enders, right? Like those games really, they might not be what they are without Zone of Enders being out first, right? So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
To me, I feel like before Zone of Enders, all the anime mech games were basically either fighting games. Like I owned 2 Gundam fighting games on the PlayStation. I still do, and they're fun fighting games,
Did you have
but
Gundam
that's
Battle
it.
Assault? Hell yeah.
Yep. I think I have the sequel. I don't think I have the original on me anymore.
The
but I have
art
the
in that
sequel.
game is great.
And
it's so good.
it is really good. And we had platforming mech games, and we had a bunch of different
There's
anime
tactic
mech
ones
games
too,
before it.
Like,
Yeah, and I mean there was an Evangelion game for the N64, but it was
I
a
forgot
very
about that one. Yeah,
clunky fighting game. But to actually fly around and kind of feel realistic, like Zoe was kind of the first one to really showcase that. It took the action of Armored Core and made it more flashy. I mean, that's how I was looked at, as like it. What I liked about Armored Core, Zoe did it better by making it more simplistic, I guess you could say, and more pretty. And it was really different. I remember, I swear originally it was supposed to be a Dreamcast game, because I remember reading in Dreamcast magazine and they were talking about how it's going to come out for it, and then it comes out on the PS2, and I was like, oh, this is cool, I'll just play it there. And it was cool. Like I remember mine still has the demo disc, I think, for Metal Gear Solid 2.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's what I was like most excited about it, because it was like a T-rated game with an M-rated demo. I mean, yeah, you got to win. But it was cool, and the nice thing about it too is anyone that has like an Xbox, the HD collection of it is backwards compatible. So, I mean, you can play both the games even on your Series X, and it's still going to look good. It'll run really good, that's for sure. And yeah, it's interesting because I remember always kind of like playing around, and I think nowadays with mech games, they're kind of everywhere. You see, I remember for years the Gundam games were like Dynasty Warrior games, which was interesting. It almost feels too weird though. It doesn't feel like what it should have been. It doesn't feel like these games where you're flying around in space. Like it's more so like, okay, we're going to do like a land assault. And then you're like, okay, I'm getting swarmed by 30 mechs. Like this doesn't seem really real, in a sense, like the animes even. Like there'd be no way all these units would clump up on me. And I don't know. It's interesting to see because I feel like during the 2000s, that's when we started seeing kind of the evolution of the genre. Because after, this and Armored Core and stuff, well, I mean, I guess it is from them too, but From Software obviously did Armored Core. That was kind of like their big series before Dark Souls. Because they started out with King's Field, which was a dungeon crawler. And then in the newer generation, late PS1, early PS2, they jumped on Armored Core. And during the 360 era, they released Chrome Hounds, which was to me, almost even more fast-paced mech game, it's really freaking cool. Like the battles in it are insane. Like there's like a fortress boss and stuff like that. Like I loved that game. And I think that 360 PS3 era for mech games is where we really saw what I love most about it. You know, the being able to fly around and actually feel real. You know, I'm not knocking the old polygon graphics. Like that's my favorite generation, but the fluidness of the combat, the look, everything just, I think, exploded in that generation. And then now, obviously, because everything looks good, it makes it definitely feel better. But yeah, it's interesting because you think about it, and like when you look at From Software, and it's like, wow, they started out really with these kind of games, and now they're just focusing on Souls games, which, I mean, they should. It's working for them. But at the same time, it's like, it'd be cool if we saw them do a new Armored Core or something like that, you know, like, hell, even making like in a Souls game. Imagine like a Souls mech
That'd
game.
be so cool.
It'd be weird, like really, really weird, but it'd be kind of cool, you know, make it open world like Elden Ring will be, and just, you know, downplay it. Like, obviously, the problem is like, okay, things are going to be shooting at you more than like people shoot arrows in a Souls game. So they'd have to like tweak it a little bit, but it'd be still cool to have that fear of where, oh man, I could die. And like, say your ship, your mech explodes and then you're on the ground. And then you got to like hide or find I don't know. That'd be kind of hard though.
I mean, there's been,
because it's like,
there's been plenty of games
win.
out there where like, you know, you escape or you eject out of the cockpit and roam around, right? Like they did that a lot. There's actually, I can never remember the actual Gun Hazard, and then there's the Armored Paladin, I believe, right? Like Panzer Paladin. I can't remember that name. But yeah, like those games do that. That would actually be really interesting to do that. Maybe not in a multiplayer style game, because I feel like that could get unfair really quickly. And the balancing.
Oh, there's Titanfall.
True, huh?
Which that's another thing, like, maybe, you know, we didn't even jump on, is Titanfall is, you know, I think I don't want to say the perfect multiplayer mech game, but I mean,
pretty damn near close to being perfect. Yeah.
It's badass. It's like you get your normal like FPS, but then it's like, oh, I'm going to call down my mech. And it's like, it's crazy. Like, I remember playing Titanfall when it first came out and I really liked it, but I didn't play enough of it. And then recently, well, like 2 years ago or so, I started playing Titanfall 2 and I was like, whoa, like, how did I not know about this before? Like, this is really, really cool. Like, I wish I was playing this when it was like bigger.
They did the balancing right in that one, where like the mechs felt very amazing and strong, but as just a pilot on the ground, you had your amazing mobility, right? And like they had really fine tuned that to like within a micrometer, right? Like, it just felt so good playing that game. And I would definitely agree. That is probably hands down the best multiplayer mech game, or one of, right? It's just, they did it right. And they, not just mech game, but like making you feel like an actual pilot itself, right? Like they really did that superbly. And I feel like that is definitely, yes, there's a lot of games out there, like we mentioned in the beginning of the episode, that we have not touched on yet, right? But remember, keyword, yet. This is just the first part of our episode on mechs, because there's so many different games out there, so many different genres, styles, multiplayer, single player, tactics, right? Like the visual novel, even, like, holy crap, right? There's so many out there that we knew going into this that we definitely did not have enough time in our first episode to talk about it all. We thought about doing a full, huge, you know, like, let's just put out a 3-hour long episode and just talk about mechs, but we're gonna give you guys a little bit of break.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
We won't do that to you guys, right? We're gonna make sure that each episode that we do, whether it's 2 or 3, we're still kind of flexible on seeing where it goes, because the genre is so huge and we want to make sure to pay homage to it. But yeah, like, there's a lot to talk about, and we are super excited to talk about it in the following episode, or episodes in parentheses, right? Just in case. But
yeah, I'm excited because next episode is the one that I cherish those strategy mech games so much, and I'm like excited to talk about that.
So I think that's a good little like teaser into the next one. Like what style, you mentioned that we're going to be talking about the strategy style mech games, right? So what other things might the listener be excited about that we will be touching on in the following episode, besides the tactic style games? I think we're definitely going to be going into some of the more indie style as well. And then we're going to be touching on some of the more modern style games that are coming out that are a little different, a little strange, but very, very interesting nonetheless. And, all this is just coming from that fandom perspective, right? Like, it's just something that we absolutely love. And actually, speaking of fandom, we want to start shouting this out now. Right? We did mention Joystick January a couple episodes ago, and we know that we did that last year as a little social media challenge where every day we had a different prompt and we posted a different game associated with the prompt, right? Kind of think drawing challenges like Inktober and stuff like that, right? This year, we're going to be changing things up a little bit, and this is one that will probably be continuing on over the next few years as well, right? So we're going to be setting up Fandom February, and Fandom February is really just that. It's just, what are you like fanning out about, right? Like what are you excited about? And it can transcend any genre. It doesn't have to be games. It can be anything. So we're excited. We'll get the full details and all that stuff squared away for you guys before February comes around, and you can start seeing that information on our social media. It's going to be all over Instagram, so don't worry about it. And be sure to join in because it's going to be a lot of fun, and really just being able to share what you're excited about. I think that's like the whole idea of fandom really was birthed here when we first started talking about the idea of making a mech episode. And then we both realized how much mechs have really inspired our choices, right? Like what we loved from gaming, from shows, from all that stuff. And I think it's just going to be a really fun way to celebrate what you're excited about. Not just what we're excited about, what you guys are excited about. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So just keep a lookout for that stuff coming up in our social medias pretty soon here. So real quick to recap this episode, what we talked about really was just the the start of mechs, right? We touched on a lot of topics, right? But we talked about the big granddaddies of them all, right? We talked about Mech Warrior that inspired the gritty, real, that like crazy, like militaristic style of mech game. And we talked about a lot about a Zone of Enders, which really showcased how to perform and how to execute an anime space battle, right? And like we said, the next ones, we're just going to be continuing to dive into the topic of mechs. And God, are we excited for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm chomping at the bits already to just start talking about them. But yeah, so with that, I think that's going to do it for us this week. We hope you guys have enjoyed our little dive into mech games, and we hope that you guys join us next week as we continue our exploration into this wonderful world that they've made for us. So with that, we'll catch you guys next week. All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye.